I bought my son a bucket of slime for Christmas, and now I need some questions answered. As someone who's been on social media regularly over the past year, I have one question to start off. How the hell did slime become so popular anyway? My kid introduced me to Instagram last year, and I'll be the first to admit I was addicted pretty much immediately. It was basically the only way we could communicate after the divorce, which I won't go into. But during April or May at some point, the whole app just blew up with this new trend. Every other post he liked, his name was Brandon, was of some teenage girl pouring borax and glue in a bowl and sticking her hands in it. I couldn't get away from it. His 10th birthday was in August, and he wanted a slime party. From the pictures, it looked like he was having more fun with the stuff than with his entire stock of presents. That Lego set was expensive as shit. Then, in October, he asked me to drive him to his friend's house for Halloween. Lo and behold, it was a slime party. Apparently green counts as spooky. The whole time I was just hugging the wall making small talk with the other parents, trying not to let the stuff splash on my jacket as the brats went to town. And it's not like I haven't tried it myself. Hell, whenever I had custody, it was all he wanted to do. It was costing me a fortune in Elmer's. It's not fun. It's not therapeutic. It's just gross. Plus, if you get it wrong, which is almost certain, you can only keep adding until the ingredient ratios are right, and every time you end up with a ruined tablecloth and a bowl of useless slop that goes mouldy in a week. I just didn't understand it. All that mattered was it kept him happy. But then the pay cuts at my job came, and the price of glue went up before the holidays. I was sacrificing 2 days' worth of meals a week for an hour's worth of fun. It was eating me out of a house and home. So this year was my year, and I decided to kill 2 birds with 1 stone. I waited until a few days before Christmas so that all the stuff would be on clearance. I drove to the Walmart near me and went straight to the slime section. Sure enough, the sign said it was 70% off. But then I realized there was a problem. The shelves were empty. Even the crappy store brand supply was sucked dry. Luckily, I happened to notice a broken piece of plastic underneath the display. I lifted the shelf away and pumped my fist as I pulled out a dust-covered plastic bucket of pre-made slime. I took one look at it and knew why it had been there for so long. The flimsy blue handle had broken off and become covered in the God knows what that was pooled on the floor. The walls were slightly see-through, so I could tell it was a pale whitish yellow, which immediately gave me spoiled milk vibes. On top of that, there was the label. Almost all of it had been torn off, leaving that sticker residue like you get when you try to peel off a postage stamp. The logo of whatever company had made the stuff was obscured, but the name of the product was just about visible. Construct O Mold, Extra Gooey Refractive Slime. The font was some cheap Comic Sans variant. The whole thing looked like a Play-Doh rip-off. Was I put off? Yeah. Could I afford to care? No. I tucked my hands into my sleeves and carried it to the self-checkout lane. $5.49. A rip-off indeed. But beggars couldn't be choosers, I guess. My ex dropped Brandon off on Christmas Eve. Needless to say, he didn't sleep at all. I knew he was playing phone games in bed, which that whore says I shouldn't let him do, but I was just happy he was staying quiet. On Christmas Day, I literally could not keep him contained. He was practically pissing himself when I walked him into the living room and gave him the whole, "Look, Santa's been here" shtick. He went right to the slime first. I'd wiped it off with a towel and chiseled the label off entirely so that it would look somewhat presentable when I wrapped it. Luckily, he bought it. I'll admit, I was pretty satisfied with myself when I saw the smile on his face. After opening the rest of his gifts, I ditched the Legos and bought him some laser pegs and a Nerf gun. He dragged me over to the kitchen table to open up the slime. As soon as the lid popped off, the scent of chemicals flooded the room. I was used to it by that point, but something was off. There was a smell mixed in that. Once again, reminded me of spoiled milk. I realized I probably shouldn't have tossed the receipt on my way out of the store in case it turned out to be full of mold or something. Brandon, however, couldn't care less. He dunked his fingers in that shit the moment it had room to breathe. For the first few seconds, he was laughing and making fart sounds with his mouth as he wiggled around under the surface. Then he tried to pull his hands out. I was scrolling through my phone when I heard him call in a soft, nervous voice. "Dad? I feel weird." I looked up. Brandon was dangling his hands about a foot over the bucket, watching as the white goo dripped back into its container. "What do you mean, weird?" I asked. "Do I need to call poison contact?" I froze. As the slime oozed back into position, it should have left Brandon's fingers exposed. Dribbling away, the knuckles came into view. But that was all that was there. Knuckles. More and more of them stretching down into the bucket, like someone had used a Photoshop tool to copy and paste the same section of finger over and over. "What the fuck?" I blurted. Brandon's expression was fearful now. Desperately. He dipped his hands back into the bucket up to his wrists and tried again. This time, instead of fingers, the entire hand was missing. The bit of arm that came out was just one continuous wrist extending out to his forearm. "Dad, help me!" he shrieked. I ran to his side and grabbed his shoulders, pulling him away from the bucket. "What the fuck? What the fuck?" I started screaming. As we pulled, the flesh just stretched on and on, replicating the same few inches over and over. We backed against the wall in terror as we watched the endless arm dangle from Brandon's tired elbows. If we kept pulling, it wasn't going to stop anytime soon. "We need to go back in," I shouted. Brandon was in tears. "Dad, please, no!" he cried. I pushed him towards the bucket of Satan's sperm, watching the limb retreat into the ooze, expecting it to stop as it touched the bottom. But somehow, it just kept sinking, deeper and deeper. I kept going until he was at his wrists once again. "Stay here," I shouted, releasing his shoulders. "Please, Dad, stay here with me," he sobbed. But I was already sprinting to the garage. I ripped open the door and pulled my toolbox off of its shelf, pausing to find my blowtorch. What in the holy hell was this shit? I didn't have time to think further on the question, though. I ran back inside and turned to the living room entrance. I almost dropped the blowtorch when I saw Brandon. He'd evidently tried to reach in further with his left arm, up to his shoulder. On the other side of the room, he was cowering in the corner, wriggling an elongated elbow on one side, and what appeared to be a strand of linking shoulder blades on the other. He turned his head to look at me. "Help me," he pleaded softly. I approached the bucket and held the blowtorch over it, away from Brandon's malformed limbs. "Burn, you fuck." I squeezed the trigger. Instantly, the hideously overgrown limbs shot forward. Brandon flew into the air like a whip, tumbling across the table in a matter of seconds to meet the bucket. Before I could react, the slime rose out of its container and dragged the stem of flesh, along with the boy attached to it, into itself, splashing back inside. What else could I do? I dropped the burner and ran for my life. It took a little while to muster up the courage to go back in after that. I still don't know what that slime is, or whose bright idea it was to put it inside that bucket and sell it. It's in the freezer right now. I slammed the lid on and backed off. I had to get a pair of garden gloves from the garage to carry the damn thing. Taped the door shut so it can't get out even if it wants to. But at the moment I'm at a loss. This is where I need your help, guys. What the fuck do I do now? Call the police and tell them a bucket of slime ate my kid? Like they'll believe that. Hell, maybe I should call in the CIA or the army. God knows what this stuff is capable of. But more importantly, what the fuck am I going to tell my ex?
The first rule of our office Secret Santa was simple. You had to wear your gift all day. No exceptions. It was supposed to be fun. A dumb way to force some holiday cheer into the sterile, fluorescent-lit box we worked in. It's also why Tim from accounting is dead, why there's blood on the ceiling, and why I haven't moved from my desk in 3 hours. It was supposed to be a joke. That's the part that keeps looping in my head. A £20 limit and one stupid rule. We all agreed. We laughed about it. We had no idea we were signing our death warrant. The party was as corporate and soulless as you can imagine. Stale cookies, non-alcoholic punch, and enough forced smiles to power a small city. We gathered in the break room, a circle of people who spent 40 hours a week together but barely knew each other. The gifts were passed out in a clumsy ritual, everyone finding the tag with their name on it from the pile under the sad little Christmas tree in the corner. I got a necklace with a cat on it that said, "I'm not feline festive." I gave it an appreciative half smile and put it on. I hate cats. John from sales got a pair of garish light-up suspenders and snapped them on over his polo shirt with a pained grin. Then it was Sandra's turn. Sandra was Sandra. Quiet, dependable, the kind of person you'd call perfectly nice and then immediately forget. She worked in HR, which fit her perfectly. She was a woman made of beige and sensible shoes. She unwrapped her small box and revealed a ring. It was cute. The band was a tarnished gold-coloured metal. It had a little elf engraved on the top with a small stone embedded where the eye should be, if you could call it a stone. It was more a murky, dark green lump of plastic or glass. Okay, it was ugly. Genuinely, profoundly ugly. "Oh," she said, her voice small. "How unique." Someone, probably John, yelled, "You gotta wear it. You gotta wear it, Sandra. Rule's a rule." A wave of dutiful chuckles went round the room. Sandra gave a weak smile and slid it on her right ring finger. It fit like a glove. I mean, perfect. That was either the guess of the century, or someone worked very hard to get the ring size right. It looked even uglier on her hand. A dark blot against her pale skin. "There," she said, wiggling her fingers. "Happy now?" Everyone gave a satisfied chuckle, and the group dispersed to enjoy the last few minutes of the party before lunch was over. I was about to finish my second slice of cake when I heard Sandra announce, "Hey, guys, I'm sorry. I'm gonna take this off now. It's starting to itch." She tried to take it off, but it wouldn't budge. At first, it was funny. Sandra, her face getting red, yanking at her own finger. It's stuck," she said with a nervous laugh. "It's not moving." Brenda from marketing, who always has lotion in her purse, came over. "Here, honey, try this." She gooped a handful of floral-scented cream onto Sandra's hand. Sandra's face twisted as she pulled, the ring staying put. The lotion just made her hand slippy and red. "Wow, that thing really wants to be on you," John joked. The laughter was already starting to feel a little strained. "Maybe your finger's just swollen from the punch," I offered, trying to help. "Too much sodium?" Sandra just shook her head, her smile gone. She was breathing a little faster. I'll run it under some cold water in a minute," she said as she made her way to the bathroom. The party fizzled out after that. We all drifted back to our cubicles, the festive mood killed by Sandra's low-grade panic. From her desk, I could see her, not working, just staring at her hand. She'd twist the ring, pull at it, then stop, her shoulders slumping. The cheap, ugly thing had claimed its territory. Later, I saw her in the bathroom again, her hand under the cold pap, soap suds everywhere. Her knuckles were raw, the skin around the ring an angry red, irritated mess. "Still no luck?" I asked, washing my hands next to her. "No," she whispered. Her eyes were wide. "It feels tighter, like it's sinking in." I glanced at her finger. It did look swollen. The metal band seemed to press right into her flesh. "You could be allergic to the metal or something. You should really go to urgent care," I said. "They can cut it off." She looked horrified. "No, I can't. It's a gift. Sandra, it's a £20 gag gift. It's cutting off your circulation." "No," she insisted, her voice taking on a strange firmness I've never heard before. "The rule is you have to wear it all day." "I have to. It's only fair." "I'll get it off tonight." She turned off the tap and walked out, leaving me alone in the silent, tiled room. I looked at my reflection and felt a cold knot tighten in my stomach. It was just a stupid ring, a piece of junk. But the look in her eyes, that desperate, almost frantic devotion to a silly party rule, it wasn't right. The next morning, the change was obvious. The first thing I noticed was a coffee. I always make the first pot, a specific dark roast everyone else says is too strong. But as I walked to the kitchenette, I could already smell it. And there was Sandra, humming a tuneless song, pouring a fresh cup into my cat mug John got me last Christmas. "Good morning," she chirped, her voice an octave higher than usual, buzzing with an unnerving energy. "I figured you'd be in soon, so I made a pot. 2.5 scoops, just how you like it." I stopped. "How did you know that?" She just beamed, her eyes a little too bright. "Oh, I just had a feeling. I wanted everyone to have a great start to their day. It's my job to help." She handed me the mug. Our fingers brushed. Her hand was ice cold, and I saw the ring. The swelling was gone, but the skin around the band was now a bruised purplish colour, as if the metal was leaching poison into her. The murky green stone seemed to catch the light in a way that it hadn't before, almost like it was winking at me. I mumbled a thanks and backed away to my cubicle. Setting the coffee down. I didn't drink it. Throughout the morning, it just kept going. Sandra was a whirlwind of unsolicited help. She'd sorted the mail before Carol, the mail clerk, even got in. She reorganised John's entire filing system with some complex colour coding only she understood. John was furious. But Sandra's chipper, unwavering insistence that she was just trying to make things more efficient left him sputtering. She moved like a ghost, appearing exactly where a problem was about to happen. When the printer jammed, she was there before the error message even popped up. Her hands already inside the machine, pulling out the crumpled paper. "Let me help with that," became a mantra whispered into your ear right when you were about to sigh in frustration. It wasn't just efficient. It was like she knew what was going to happen before it did. She'd have a document ready for our boss, Dave, before he'd even finished writing the email to ask for it. She'd refilled the water cooler seconds before it sputtered out. The whole office started to run with this terrifying, supernatural smoothness. But the helpfulness had an edge. It was obsessive. She wasn't helping because she was kind. She was helping because it looked like she had to. Like a compulsion she couldn't fight. I watched her, fascinated and horrified. Her movements were jerky. Her smile was fixed, and her eyes never seemed to blink. They just scanned, constantly searching for the next problem to solve, the next person to help. Her own work sat untouched. Reports piled up, emails went unanswered. Her only function now was to serve the needs of the office itself, whether we wanted her to or not. People started freaking out. They'd deliberately mess up their desks after she'd tidied them, only to turn around and find everything perfectly aligned again. They'd whisper about her in the break room, shooting nervous glances over their shoulders. "She's everywhere," Brenda whispered, her voice a low hiss. "I was just thinking about how I needed a paperclip, and she just appeared at my desk and handed me one. Didn't say a word, just held it out." The air grew thick with an unspoken dread. "This isn't the Sandra we know," I spoke out. "She's worked here like for 5 years. I don't think I've heard her speak 4 words before now." "Do you think the metal in the rings poisoned her brain or something?" Mark chimed in flippantly. "I don't know, but something's not right," I whispered. The tipping point came that afternoon. It started, like everything else, with Sandra trying to help. Dave, our boss, was carrying a fresh, steaming pot of coffee back to his office when he tripped on the edge of the rug. The pot flew into the air and she immediately tried to catch it. Scalding hot coffee splashed across Sandra's blouse and down her arm and hand. She didn't even flinch. A collective gasp went through the few of us who saw it. The coffee was steaming hot. It should have been agony, but Sandra just looked down at the dark, spreading stain on her shirt, then back up at Dave with that same placid, terrifying smile. "Oh, dear." "It's okay, I can fix it," she said, her voice perfectly even. "Sandra, my God, are you okay?" Dave stammered, his face pale. "You're burned." She looked at her arm as if she was just noticing it. A huge red welt was already blistering on her skin. Her expression didn't change. "Don't you worry about that, Dave," she cooed. The important thing is that the spill gets taken care of so no one slips. Efficiency is key." She walked calmly to the supply closet, her arm glistening with the start of a serious burn, and returned with the paper towels. She knelt and began diligently sopping up the coffee, humming a little tune. We just stared, frozen. The smell of burnt coffee filled the air, mingling with something else, the faint, sweet smell of cooking flesh. She didn't register the pain. She was completely disconnected from her own body. I saw her later, when she was filing papers. The burn was horrific, a weeping landscape of blisters and peeling skin. But right in the middle of the carnage, the ring sat untouched. The gold metal was pristine. It wasn't tarnished anymore, and the murky green stone was glowing with a faint internal light. The skin around it was dark with snaking veins pulsing up her arms in a sickening rhythm, all of them starting from the same place. Everything around it looked damaged. It looked like it was feeding on her. The flesh of her finger was starting to grow over the band, swallowing it, making the ring part of her. She saw me looking, the horror in my expression, and smiled. I swallowed, her gaze boring into my soul. "Sandra," I said softly. She spun around, her eyes wide and unfocused. "James, is there anything I can help you with? A report? A spreadsheet? I'm very good with formulas." "Sandra," I said again, placing a hand on her shoulder. "Look at your hand. You're hurt. We've got to get that ring off." She glanced down at her mangled arm, and for a split second, a flicker of the old Sandra surfaced, a glimmer of pure terror. "It hurts," she whispered, her voice trembling. "It hurts so much. I can't take it off. I don't think I get to decide anymore. I need to..." Then, just as quickly, the light in her eyes went out, replaced with a glassy, vacant stare. The smile snapped back onto her face. "Do better," she announced. "Silly me. Pain is just a distraction from productivity. Now, if you'll excuse me, the break room floor could use a good mopping." She turned away, a woman possessed. That's when I knew I was right. This wasn't Sandra. But what I failed to realize at that moment It was going to get a lot worse. It started with a staple. Tim from accounting was a creature of loud complaints. He was trying to staple a thick stack of invoices and the stapler jammed. "For crying out loud," he boomed, his voice echoing through the cubicles. "This cheap piece of junk. I can't get this staple out." He slammed it on the desk a few times, and then she was there. Sandra appeared at his cubicle so silently it was like she materialized out of the air. None of us saw her move. "Let me help with that, Tim," she said. Her voice was flat, hollow, a recording. Tim jumped. "Geez, Sandra, don't sneak up on a guy." He shoved the stapler at her. "Here, you fix it. My thumbs are too fat." Sandra took the stapler and examined it with an intense, unblinking focus. She tried to pry the bent staple out with her fingers, but it didn't work. She tried again. Her nail bent backwards with a soft crack. No reaction. "It's really stuck," she stated, looking from the stapler to her own hand. The ring on her finger pulsed with a dull green light. Then an idea seemed to form behind her dead eyes. A terrible, helpful idea. "A finer tool is needed," she murmured. She held up her left hand, the one with the unburned skin. With the thumb and forefinger from her right hand, she took hold of a nail on the left index finger. And she pulled. There was a wet, tearing sound. Tim let out a strangled gasp. I shot up in my cubicle, my blood turned into ice. She peeled her own fingernail clean off, the raw, red nail bed exposed and bleeding freely. She didn't make a sound. She held up the bloody finger, the detached nail held between her two other fingers like tweezers. "This will be much more effective," she said calmly. She used the hard edge of her own ripped-off nail to work at the jammed staple. Blood dripping onto the stapler, onto the invoices, onto Tim's desk. Tim was as white as a sheet. "Sandra, what are you doing?" he whispered. She ignored him, her focus absolute. She flicked the bent staple out and it skidded across the desk. "There," she said, her smile widening into a ghastly rictus of joy on a face splattered with her own blood. She held out the now functional stapler. "All fixed. I'm happy I could help." Tim didn't take it. He was backing away, knocking his chair over. Get away from me," he stammered, scrambling out of his cubicle. "Tim," she said sweetly, tilting her head to the side like a confused animal. "I have fixed your problem. Your panic is not efficient." "You're insane," he shouted. That was the wrong move. He'd created a problem. An inefficiency. Her smile faltered. The ring on her hand flared with a bright, malevolent green. "You're upset," she said, her head tilting further. "My help wasn't helpful enough. I need to fix this. I need to help you feel better." She looked around the desk, her eyes scanning for a tool. They landed on the letter opener, a long, sharp steel spike. "I understand," she said, her voice dripping to a low, guttural whisper that wasn't hers. "Your stress is the problem. I need to relieve the pressure." She grabbed the letter opener. Tim screamed, a raw, primal sound of pure terror. He turned to run. He never made it out of the aisle. Sandra didn't move like a person. She lunged like an animal. The first strike was to the back of his leg. He collapsed with a wet cry. "Hold still," the thing in Sandra's body hissed, standing over him. She dropped to her knees, pinning him. "I'm just trying to help you relax," she said through gritted teeth before jamming the letter opener through his eye socket. His body jerked wildly and went still. "There," she said softly again. "All relaxed." Simon from head office fainted, cracking his head on the sharp side of the desk as he fell. Sandra's head whipped around. The office erupted into chaos. Screams, running feet, slamming doors. Brenda from marketing was on the phone, her voice a hysterical shriek. Sandra got to her feet. "Ah, I see you all need to relax." "That's okay,"
I can help.
she said, smiling as she lifted the letter opener again. I couldn't move. I was paralysed. My heart just stopped. I watched as she lunged for Mark, slitting his throat as he wrestled with the office door. Blood coated the "Hang in there" kitty poster on the wall. Thick crimson droplets streamed like tears down the cat's face. I carefully lowered myself into my desk chair and tucked myself in. I knew there was no way to escape. She slaughtered anyone that ran, anyone that screamed, anyone that did something they weren't meant to be doing. There must have only been 3 of us here now, and Simon was useless, unconscious on the floor. I was trapped. I heard her calm, measured footsteps approach Brenda, who was still stuttering details to the operator. My stomach dropped as I heard the soft click of the receiver. "Tisk tisk," she chimed. "Personal calls
Within office hours, I'm
not efficient." Then, gurgling, sputtering. A slump to the floor. Silence. My hands shook as I took myself closer to the desk and switched on my monitor. I opened my emails and began to read. My plan was to look efficient, look like I was working. If this didn't work, then nothing would. The stench of copper filled the air as I heard her approach my desk. I felt a drop of something warm run down my cheek and hit my blouse. She was standing over me. "Do you need any help?" she asked innocently. I opened up a random reply email and took a shallow breath. No thank you, Sandra." "Okay then," she replied, and walked away. I'm emailing this voice note to the last email I received. I don't know who it'll reach, but I need someone to know that I'm still in here. And so is she. I know this sounds crazy, but I think the ring's doing this to her. There were 5 of us in the Secret Santa. Everyone got a gift. I can't figure out who would be twisted enough to give that to her. But at this point, they're as much of a victim as Tim, I guess. The stench of copper is overpowering. Simon must be dead. He hasn't moved since he fell. My shift ended an hour ago, but I'm scared to move. I can still hear her humming that tune somewhere in the building. I think she's coming back. To whomever it may concern, I apologise for any inconvenience caused today. I understand there was an incident, and I accept responsibility for not de-escalating the situation sooner. In hindsight, emotions ran high, productivity suffered. I remained at my workstation to avoid further disruption. Sandra attempted to assist multiple employees prior to the event. Her intentions were good. I should have supported her better. I can hear movement in the break room now. I will conclude this message to avoid wasting anyone's time. Yours sincerely. Oh, what a mess.
Hi everyone, thanks for listening. I hope you enjoyed your Christmas Day double feature. A massive thank you to my top tier members. I can say members now. Mark Mathern, 7322 and Ever New, and of course, the Corvus Vale residents mentioned in the description. You're all awesome. If you would like your name mentioned here or in the description, as well as other cool perks, such as cool emojis, member badges, early access to videos and more. Please consider joining the membership. The link is in the description and bio, so is the merch link. Just saying. Oh, and I've lowered the top tier price right down to its minimum, just in case anyone fancies an upgrade. You get everything from the first tier, plus merch discounts, member-only videos, and also have a story written about you if you stay for 3 months. Which would be a pretty cool thing to tell your friends, right? Yes, it would. Don't lie. Speaking of merch, I have merch now, so check that out. If you're on a mobile or tablet, please consider hyping the video. It pushes it a tiny bit further out into the YouTube wild. If you really, really enjoyed it, I think I have that super thanks button down there somewhere. Even £1 helps me toward my goal of making this a full-time thing. Then I can just have one full-time thing instead of my day job and this full-time. I'm here a lot. Good night.